Hi ladies! I am here today to discuss intro to solids with your baby. So I myself have just started doing this with my daughter as of a week ago, and I found it is much more complicated than I originally thought it was going to be. So I know that I am not the only one because number one, I'm in a couple different mom groups on Facebook and have posted my questions there, and several moms have been experiencing the same things. I've seen other questions of other moms around there. So I just thought it would be a good idea to kind of share my experience so that, you guys can kind of, watch these as I go and kind of, if you're in the same boat or if you're about to be in the same boat, you can kind of, gauge whether, I don't want to say if something's normal or not because every baby is different, but, if you're maybe going through the same thing that I am, you definitely know that it's normal and just a part of the process. And also just kind of sharing my experiences on, what's worked for me and my daughter, and just sharing our experience in general, that maybe you can get something out of what we have done as far as that goes. So like I said, we started about a week ago. So week one, I feel like was pretty overall successful. So we started with rice cereal, and I was starting mixing that with breast milk. I was doing, I believe it was one tablespoon of the rice cereal, and then I think I started with 1 tablespoon of rice cereal and then 3 tablespoons of breast milk. And I was using what I had just pumped earlier that morning. I used one of those little they're like squishy, rubbery type pumps that I just collect what comes out when she's feeding on the other side in the morning. That's literally all that I ever pump, really. But anyway, so I was using that from the refrigerator, so I was heating it up a little bit, and I was finding that I think because since I'm heating that milk up a little bit, that the rice in the rice cereal it was like just being diluted, or what's the word? It was just thinning out a lot. So, I mean, at the beginning, you do want it to be a little bit more watery because they're only used to liquid. So it's kind of, you're in a transition period there. But I still wanted it to have some consistency to it, but it literally, I think because it was warm, was just turning to straight liquid. I even tried the next day reducing it to 2 tablespoons of breast milk. And again, like, it started out being a little bit thicker, but I think again because it was warm, it just turned to straight liquid. I did just the plain rice cereal. We started on a Sunday, so I did it Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, just doing it once a day, and I was doing that at lunchtime, around lunchtime, right after her nap. And then that Tuesday I went to her 6-month checkup, and the doctor told me to not mix it with the rice cereal, not mix it with breast milk, because I want to say it was because there's calcium in the breast milk as well as the rice cereal, and so it's just a duplicate of it, and she can only absorb so much or something like that. So she just recommended to just mix it with water, so that, it's not the redundancy of those vitamins and whatnot. So I did that, let's see, I want to say I did that Wednesday morning. Well, I did it again, I did it again that Tuesday evening. I did the rice cereal with just water, and then I think Wednesday morning I did that again as well. But then I started doing purees around lunchtime on that Wednesday. So also when I was at the doctor that Tuesday, she told me I could go ahead and start introducing puree foods, to start with the green vegetables, moving to yellow and then red, and then fruits. And again, I think that's kind of common for pediatricians nowadays, because their overall thought is, if they eat fruits first, they're not going to want to touch a vegetable, which, I mean, I get that to a degree. But again, I know several moms, mine was one of them. For me and my sister both, she started us with fruits, and then went into vegetables, and we did just fine. My sister, I think, started her firstborn with fruits to vegetables, and then went vegetables to fruits with her son. So, I mean, either way really works, but just because I like to follow instructions, basically. I'm starting with the green vegetables. So we started with green beans. She said that we could mix some of the rice cereal into that, just to get a little more of that iron that's in that rice cereal. Mix that with it. So I do a tablespoon of the baby food, and then it's probably like half a tablespoon, but I kind of just eyeball it, honestly. Adding the rice cereal to it, and then I add a little bit of baby water to it, just to thin it out a little bit. And then, so I did that that afternoon and the evening. Our doctor recommends just starting them automatically on 3 times a day with whatever foods you're introducing. I thought that was a bit excessive, but I'm not giving her a whole lot each time. Like I said, it's like a tablespoon, maybe a little over once you mix everything to it. But so I, am not giving her a whole lot. If she, acts like she's getting fussy or has enough, like, I don't force the entire amount on her, things like that. So again, go with what your doctor's telling you, go with what you're comfortable with. But I'm doing the 3 times a day because, one, I feel like doing it 3 times a day, it's exposing her to it a little bit more. And so it's getting, I'm able to see if she's going to have a reaction to it more quickly, I guess. So, sorry, there's a little dog outside, and it's like barking at our neighbor. It's loose from one of the other houses, and it's a little distracting. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, we started with green beans. We did that through, so we did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then Sunday morning, I started with peas. Those are the 2 green vegetables that I've started with. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing a green or if I'm going to move into the squash that I've bought. So going over her reactions to each of the foods, she wasn't overly fond of the rice cereal. She was making all kinds of stink faces with it. And really, like, during those first 3 days of doing that, she's really just trying to figure out what to do with it. Like I said, at the beginning when I was giving it to her before it turned to full liquid, she hasn't had anything thicker than, just breast milk. So she's trying to figure out what to do with it. She's trying to figure out the taste. And if you've tasted the rice cereal mixed with, I didn't taste it when it was mixed with my breast milk, but it just weirds me out. But when it was mixed with water, I did try it, and it's not good. Like, it's not good at all. Like, it tastes like just blech. So I don't blame her for not really taking to it very well, but it's kind of just like getting her used to a different texture, a different taste. When I moved her to the green beans that Wednesday, I would say the first 2 or 3 feedings with that weren't too terribly successful, and I mean that, she wasn't really eating a whole lot of it. She was kind of like pushing a lot of it out with her tongue and kind of getting it all over. But that's I want to say normal, because again, she's just getting used to different textures, different tastes. This is like her first like taste of actual like food. Like I know rice is a food, but like it's literally bland and tastes disgusting. So she's just trying to figure it out. But I think it was Thursday afternoon, which was I think her third or fourth serving of it, she seemed to enjoy it a lot more. So she was swallowing it, you know, opening her mouth for more, and whatnot. So again, you know, when we offered it to her that evening, same thing. She was, you know, wanting to eat it more, things like that. So it's kind of a process of, you know, getting them to like it. I will say that her first couple times that I did give her the green beans, I just gave it to her straight from the container. But the next day when I, because I was refrigerating any leftovers that we had, I did heat it up a little bit, and she did seem to like it more that way. So you're going to find that your kids are going to prefer different foods at different temperatures. I've also seen this with other moms that I've talked to, that I've, you know, again, with those mom groups that I'm a part of, that, you know, they like one food heated up and one not, and things like that. So with the green beans and the peas both, I do heat them up, you know, lukewarm. I test them on the inside of my wrist just to make sure that it's not too hot before I give it to her. If it is, you know, blow on it, wait a little bit, or I've actually, you know, mixed in a little bit of the water or a little bit more of the green beans or whatever the food is, to kind of cool it down quicker if I'm, you know, not wanting to wait a whole lot of time for it to cool down on its own. Let's see, what else? Let's see, peas, there wasn't a whole lot of a different reaction. I mean, it was, you know, a different reaction in that, you know, oh, a different taste, you know, figuring out kind of thing. What's pretty funny is that now when she's eating, she does like this, and it's pretty funny to watch her do that, but I think it's just her like figuring out like how to get the food back into the back of her mouth, how to swallow it and things like that. And that's just one of the things that she does when she's swallowing, I guess. But what else is noteworthy about this week? Oh, so when I bought the baby food, I was at Target and I was looking for, you know, I was looking for like little tiny jars of, you know, baby food, you know, and just having the one foods. But like Target had a lot of like mixtures. They had, you know, where it has like, I think like, I don't know, green beans and pears or whatever. I don't think it was those two, but they had like ones with 3 different kinds of fruits mixed together and stuff like that. And I'm sure you know that, you know, when you're introducing foods, you introduce them one at a time. You do them for, you know, 3 to 5 days. My doctor said 4 to 5, so we're doing 4 days on each, and I'll get to that in here in a second of why I'm doing 4 and not 5. But so I had to literally like scour the entire aisle to find like single foods in the puree section. I did end up finding, like I said, green beans, peas, pretty much like most of the foods that you would want to start out with. So I did green beans, peas, squash, and sweet potatoes is what I bought initially. When I got home and was just reading up on, you know, just how to introduce it, best way to do, blah, 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 I found that somebody was talking about the first foods, excuse me, the first foods assisted sitter, and that's literally what it looks like. I'll go grab some here in a second so you can see that. Okay, so real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So on this one it's got sitter second foods, and they actually have a step before that, which is the assisted sitter first foods. As you can see, I bought Second Foods, and I had read that when I bought it, and I was thinking, okay, Second Foods to like the rice cereal, like this is the next thing that you introduce. So I didn't think anything of it until I saw that. So I was asking my sister, I was asking people in the moms group, I was Googling like what's the difference between the assisted sitter and the sitter foods. And for the most part, what I gathered was that there's not a whole lot of difference other than the serving size. So the assisted sitter is going to be a smaller serving size container than the sitter. So the sitter food or baby food comes in, I think it's like 4-ounce sizes. So it's like, I don't know, like this big, and then like maybe this wide of a container. So, I mean, basically what I do is I just scoop out what I need and then put the rest in the refrigerator. I was reading whatever, that there might be a little bit thicker of a consistency in the sitter versus the assisted sitter. But it's still really pureed. Like I don't see any chunks or anything like that. But I just thin it out with some water. With some of the baby water, and it's fine. So if you can't find the assisted sitter, or if you buy, like me, buy the sitter on accident, it's not the end of the world or anything like that. You don't have to rush out and go get this assisted sitter. If you want to, if you're more comfortable with doing that, it's perfectly fine. Obviously, you can just save the sitter stuff for when they get to that stage. But anyway, so I just kind of wanted to share that experience that I had with it as well. So like I said, I store it in the refrigerator and then take it out for each meal, heat it up, whatever. But I will say that when you are refrigerating opened baby food, it does say online that you should only refrigerate it and reuse it for 2 to 3 days. I don't like the whole gray area of 2 to 3 days, so I just do 2, just because I want to be on the safe side as far as that goes. So when I open a container, you know, I'm using it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I use it for basically 48 hours. So I opened one container of Pete's last night to get a little bit more for her dinner serving, and then I will use it breakfast, lunch, and dinner today, as well as probably breakfast, lunch, and dinner tomorrow, because that's about a 48-hour span. So, and then whatever I have left, I'll just toss. Like, it's not, the baby food is not terribly expensive. Again, you're not using a whole lot anyway. So I'm okay. And usually there's not a lot left when I do that anyway. But yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was noteworthy this week that would help you guys out. Oh, my daughter does this weird thing when she's eating. And she, for some reason, like between bites, will go down and like bite the high chair. Like just like bite it. I don't know if it's to like soothe her teeth or if she's like wanting to gnaw on something. I don't know. But yeah, I literally have to like put my finger on her forehead and like push her back up so I can give her another bite. I'm like, what are you doing? But it's pretty funny. Now there's like little like teeth marks on the high chair because she has 2 of her bottom teeth. So I'm like, cannot be good for your teeth. So I'm trying to discourage that as much as possible. So I am curious if any other babies out there do that. So if they do, please leave a comment. I would like to know. What else? As far as, you know, like I said, I'm doing a tablespoon at a time. But if she starts to get fussy or, you know, is like hitting the spoon or anything like that, like I stop feeding her. I'm not trying to make it an ordeal or force her to eat more than she wants or anything like that. So there's that. As far as scheduling the feedings, so that was one of the things that I found stressful, and it is a little bit still stressful. I'm sure as you have noticed that a lot of the stuff with being a mom in general, like you kind of have to have flexibility and go with the flow. Like like I said, I'm very black and white. Like I want to know, do this, this, and this, and that's how you do it. But being a mom doesn't work that way. So as far as a schedule, like I'm very it's kind of a fluid schedule right now because I'm trying to figure out what works best. So I was in the morning breastfeeding first, and then right after she was done, I would offer her some food or rice cereal, whatever it was. And then for her lunch and dinner, I would feed her some of the pureed food and then breastfeed right after. But I found that when I was doing it that way, that she would breastfeed initially, like for the first few times she would breastfeed right after, but then it became like she wouldn't breastfeed. And so right now the nutrition that she needs and is and gets is still from the breast milk. So I did end up switching it back to breastfeeding her first and then offering her food. But like you can't do, I mean, I'm sure you can if your baby takes to it this way, but you can't, for me, you can't really do breastfeed and then immediately feed the baby food, because I was finding that she was getting frustrated because she was not hungry. Like she just ate, technically, to her. So what I have started doing as of the last couple of days is breastfeed her first, wait about an hour, hour and a half, and then give her some baby food, and then about another hour, hour and a half later, breastfeed her. Again, it's still a very fluid schedule. Like I'm kind of going off of her cues on, you know, if she gets fussy, then she's probably getting a little bit hungry sooner. So, you know, if it's on the baby food schedule, like I'll go ahead and offer her some baby food. If it's about time to, you know, do the breastfeeding, I'll breastfeed her early, whatever. But I tend to breastfeed her to sleep, which I know is not recommended, but it works for us right now, so that's what I do. So I still like for her to breastfeed right before her naps, and so that's why this schedule has kind of worked out for us. So when I wake up in the morning, I breastfeed her because I'm really full in the morning. She sleeps 10 to 12 hours, so there's no feeding in between. I don't pump during that time, so I tend to be on the full side, which now my body has finally, I think, started to regulate with what she actually needs, so it's not like engorged city. But so I breastfeed first, and then I'm trying to go closer to an hour and a half because it seems like her awake time is lengthening from 2 hours. She was awake for about a 2-hour period, but it seems like she's staying awake longer. So I'm trying to stretch it a little bit to, you know, maybe an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes offering the baby food. And then again, hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes breastfeed, and then she goes for a nap. She'll sleep anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. It just depends on the day. But so then when she wakes up again, breastfeed her, wait hour, hour and a half, whatever it is, feed her some baby food. Again, an hour, hour and a half, do breastfeeding. So it's kind of like I don't want to go too terribly long without breastfeeding. So I'm still breastfeeding about every 3 hours. But I'm still working in that baby food as well. Again, it's going to be a fluid schedule. It's going to be figuring out what works best for you. You know, during those first few days of offering, you know, those solids, it might throw off the breastfeeding or formula feeding, whatever it is. It might throw off that schedule a little bit, because she's like, it's totally new for her. You know, she might, you know, just be full, or, you know, it could give her gas, who knows, you know? So don't be afraid or worried if, you know, she seems to not be eating as much, or eating what you might think is less. I know, especially if you're breastfeeding, you know that you can't tell how much they're getting. At this age, my daughter, you know, if she's nursing before she goes down for a nap, she tends to eat a little longer, because I think she's like, you know, going in and out of sleeping and eating and things like that. But when she's awake, I do offer both sides, but she never really eats on one side longer than like 5 minutes. So there's really not a good way to, you know, tell how much they're getting. But, you know, she's gonna let you know if she's hungry, and as they get older, they tend to get more efficient with getting milk out. So I'm not terribly worried about it. Sometimes she goes through spurts where she'll eat just 3 minutes on one side, and that's it. And then, you know, a little bit later she'll go for another 3 minutes and things like that. So it's kind of, again, like, I hate it as much as anybody. You know, it's just figuring it out. You kind of got to go with the flow, honestly. So anywho, so that's kind of the schedule that I'm going with right now. Again, if you're not comfortable with doing it 3 times a day or whatnot, there's not, you know, a hard and fast rule. Some people only do it once a day. When I told my mom that I was doing 3 times a day, because that's what the doctor said, she was like, oh my gosh, because she only did it once a day. But I think the idea behind that is to kind of get them used to 3 meals a day, because that's eventually what you're gonna, you know, do with them. And I just find it strange. Like, she's 6 months, we're starting, quote unquote, solids. And then by a year, like, she's literally gonna be eating like regular meals, like, for the most part. Like, it's just crazy to me that it goes that fast, and I'm just like, I'm only introducing one food at a time. Like, am I gonna have enough time to introduce every single food that she's ever gonna be exposed to? It's just ugh. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of our experience so far. I'm excited to kind of go through other foods every single time. I do have videos of her trying each, the green beans and the peas, so I will post those videos as well, so you can kind of see the faces she makes and whatnot. I also have videos of her trying rice cereal and you know, like what the consistency looked like when I mixed it up. Like I was telling you, it looked really watery and things like that. So I do have videos of those. I will be posting those soon, and I will include links to those below so that you can go watch those if you wish. And yeah, so all good so far. No reactions that I can tell. She is I think teething again some, so, you know, we've had some fussiness going on when I'm, you know, feeding her and things like that, but other than that, I think she's been reacting really well to everything. So so yeah, but if you've enjoyed this video, found it helpful, please subscribe, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear, you know, like, leave a comment with what your pediatrician recommends, or what you're doing with your baby. Especially if you're doing the baby-led weaning, I would love to hear about how that's going, you know, what you're doing, starting with, things like that. Because I asked my pediatrician about it, and she, like, looked like I had 5 heads. Like, she didn't really know what it was, and when I tried to explain it, she was like, oh, your baby's gonna choke. But I don't really think that that's the case, but that might be a conversation for another video. But I am interested in trying that, and if I do, I will be sure to make a video of it and let you know how it goes. But again, subscribe, leave a comment, like this video if you did get something from it. And we will see you next time, and I will plan on doing these weekly as I introduce new foods to kind of give you how everything went. So that's it for now, guys. I don't need to tell you this, but maybe I do. Like, you're doing a great job as a mom. I know it's very stressful, but you're doing your best. If you're worried about if you're a good mom, that means you are, because you're trying your best. So anyway, that's it. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.